What's up, YouTube? Cuban Gamer, man. Appreciate anyone tuning in. I know no one's really gonna watch this, but I wish this could reach more people. But I'm gonna try to keep this one short. So, obviously, title talking about the new changes, right? And I'm in the real minority here, but I think that this is arguably, one of the best patches we've seen in a long time, in years. I think this is very good for the game. And first off, I'm gonna start off by saying, yeah, like some people might discredit my opinion just because I don't have as many hours as people, but just hear me out, and because I still just hear me out, right? So I got a couple points written down. I'm gonna try to go by them, trying to go point by point, not in any particular order, right? So it's not about importance and stuff. I didn't plan this out too much. Just gonna talk about a couple different points, right? Alright, so the first thing I hear people saying is that medkits are more necessary now, and that that medkits should have been nerfed, but they should have kept healing the same or something like that, right? So medkits, let's just say medkits are more necessary, right? That's kind of like that what people are saying. My counter argument to that is, okay, fine, that's totally cool. That means less toolboxes, right? So I don't really see a problem with that. And as far as them being nerfed, they needed to get nerfed. So they were they were way too powerful. By the way, I'm just trying to keep this video short. I'm not going super in detail. If you want to comment something, we can talk about it. I can make another video, whatever. I'm just trying to not drag this on. Next, new players are punished. We've been balancing around new players since the beginning of the game. That's the problem with this game. Gotta balance around good players, because when you balance around, I've talked about this before. A lot of people know this. When you balance around new players, when those new players get good, then they end up leaving the game. So, because the game is unbalanced at the highest level. I'm not gonna get into detail with that. If you know, you know. I've also heard a lot of people saying like, "Oh, self-care and sloppy takes like a million seconds or whatever." That's an extreme scenario. Self-care by itself is trash anyways, so that's not a good argument. Good players are not using self-care by itself, especially if they're sloppy. So that's kind of a stupid argument. Next thing I'm gonna talk about is how slowdown is basically gone, right? They're getting rid of slowdown for killer. So Colibri nerfed, Pain Res nerfed, right? Which were arguably the two strongest slowdown perks that killers have. Obviously, they've nerfed Pop in the past, Ruin, Thanatophobia. So here's what I have to say to that. I agree with. I get, and if the game was perfect, yeah, slowdown wouldn't really be a thing. I get it, but here's the thing though. Slowdown is basically gone. There's Jolt left, Deadlock, which I predict one or both of those is going to be nerfed, and we got like sloppy. Everything else is basically trash, right? Survivors, everyone's complaining about these healing changes, right? Two things. First of all, survivors have a bunch of very, very strong healing perks that are super slept on and very strong, like that people just don't use, right? I'm just gonna name some of them. And on top of that, another remember, there is no penalty to really being injured. It's not like you're slower on the gen or something like that. So we've been in a healing meta for a while now, with Botany being buffed, if you remember that. Circle of Healing was added, whatever, right? Desperate Measures, remember when Desperate Measures came out, etc., right? But before that, it was more of a gen rush meta where people wouldn't heal, right? that's also still a very, very viable option. There's really strong perks. Okay, I'm just gonna read some of them off. Will make it. It's very, very super strong, underrated perk. 100 double healing speed for 90 seconds. Okay, just keep that in mind. Resilience, right? I'm not even gonna explain all of them. Will make it. Resilience. Also, recovering on the ground is slower. Unbreakable is still a thing, which is gonna be base kit soon. We'll talk about that later. Exponential, and then that can combo with the new buffed Overzealous, right? Desperate Measures is also very strong, very slept on. 14% per stack, so if 4 people are injured, okay, whatever. Botany, which was buffed a while back, for the people. Adrenaline, We're Gonna Live Forever, and Soul Guard, which is gonna possibly become used more now because with We're Gonna Live Forever and For the People, and more people might be running Pentimento, so it's gonna come into use. So that's just a couple. I could be missing some, but Slowdown, on the other hand, is basically completely gone. You know, some killers are only able to viably use Deadlock. But okay, moving on. I'm trying to move as quick as possible here. Another thing that I have not seen absolutely anyone talk about. Like, I don't consider myself that smart of a guy, but like, I don't know why no one said this. A very positive thing coming from this patch: more survivors will now play killer, right? What does that mean? It means a couple things, right? I don't have what I'm gonna say written down, so I'm just gonna go off the brain here. But there's a lot of good things that come from that. There's gonna be, well, obviously queue times, right? But that's minor. Players are gonna become less biased. The player base is gonna become less biased, and they're gonna become more knowledgeable. People are gonna realize this change is, yeah, it's pretty drastic compared to what we're used to getting, but this game is still gonna be very survivor-sided, okay? People are losing their minds because it's a crazy change, because we're used to nothing being done. We've had essentially the same game for like 6 years. This is still gonna be a very, very survivor-sided game at the highest level. Big if. And, you know, if you want to talk about low-level stuff, about low-level, you know, newer players, I get that argument, but we cannot balance around them. Because you want to reward people for putting time and money into the game. You don't want to punish them for it, which is what it is right now, because they're just catering to newer players, okay? But that's a whole other topic. I'm gonna try not to get into that. I'm trying to go as fast as possible here. More survivors will play clear. The player base is gonna become less biased and more knowledgeable. You can't put numbers on that. That's gonna be very important. You know, imagine if everyone was basically like, I don't even know, man. I'm not even gonna stay on that point too long. I just think that's a really big deal, because as of right now, I think we have so many people who are kind of just biased towards Survivor, to be honest. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Anyways, the next one's kind of obvious. The slower the game, there's gonna be less tunneling, less camping, and more hooks. The possibility to do so. Okay. Now, you might say, okay, well, if you slow down the game, you indirectly buff tunneling and camping. My response to that is, yeah, well, that's up to behavior to change. They need to add incentives to not camp and tunnel, okay? That's a whole nother topic. But point is, survivors don't want to get... People don't... It's just... Look, there either has to be... Survivors don't want to get tunneled or camped, but they also don't want slowdown. You need one. The game either has to slow down, or there's going to be tunneling and camping. Pick one. I would rather the game last long enough for the killer to be able to have the opportunity to do multiple chases, do multiple hooks, if you watch if you watch me play, and a bunch of other killers, I bet, we want to chase, but you lose the game if you don't tunnel and camp. So, anyways, by the way, another little point, I'm not too informed on this one, but from what I understand, on some maps, if not all, I don't know, there's now going to be pallets on the edge of the map. I don't know if that means there's going to be more pallets in total, but even if there's not, that might indirectly be a buff to Survivor, because if it's going to take longer to heal, you can just go to the corner of the map. The killer is still going to lose out. That hurts killer so much, because the killer's going to have to leave the gens to go out to the fucking corner of the map. Some of these pallets are looking pretty decent. They're not like shitty, they're not like shitty pallets. They're like decent filler pallets, right? So they have to leave the gens, go and chase you at a decent pallet, so pallets on the corner of the map, very concerning, right? By the way, next point, this is a very specific one, but Autodidact, I think it's called, that perk, I don't know how to pronounce it, Autodidact, whatever, that new healing perk is very possibly going to become new meta, even with Sloppy and however long the heal, even with Sloppy and Cowerphobia, or maybe not Cowerphobia, but with Sloppy, with Autodidact, the 5 stacks, which you can get fairly quickly, the heals are almost instant. They're actually faster than before, so that's something to take into consideration. Everyone losing their minds over this change might be looking stupid, because Autodidact might just become super meta and basically not change anything. So, other than shift the meta a little bit, but as far as balancing wise, nothing really. They had to do this healing change because the game at the highest level, or even high level, not highest, it doesn't have to be top percent. When there's five players who know what they're doing in a game, the game is just unbalanced, okay? That's just what it is, in most cases, right? The game is just unbalanced. In most cases. So, the maps are a huge problem in this game. They haven't done anything to change that, really. So, this is, this is just an easier way of balancing the game. You know what I mean? And it's just a necessary one, Maps are arguably, the biggest or tied for biggest problem, but my point is that maps are really Survivor favored, most of them. That's just my opinion. Ott says that that the game Gideon Meat Plan is Survivor favored. I completely disagree. The way that maps are being, like the new maps too, recently, these maps are Survivor Haven or Heaven, Survivor Heaven, bro. It's just like pallets and God windows, RPD, Garden of Joy, Area Crows, very strong Survivor unfair maps. Anyways, almost done here. Stay with me. Survivor's got base kit BT a while back. They're going to get base kit Unbreakable, right? Which I'm not complaining about these things. I'm just stating them. And Off the Record got added into the game, reworked to prevent tunneling, and you can still use DS with that, right? So, which, by the way, I think DS should be made base kit down the road too, but that's a whole nother topic. My point with saying that is that survivors are getting all this stuff, right? Killers, we got an extra 10 seconds per gen. Didn't really do anything. An extra 10%, like breaking pallets or whatever, and like a little, and then like 10% faster recovery, whatever. It doesn't do anything. It didn't really do anything, bro. So, it's just, people are losing their minds over this, but just go back and look at all the patches. Go look at all the patch notes. survivors have really gotten it better, to be honest. The amount of perks that have been nerfed for killer, and killer nerfs as well. Not even talking about the best ones, but like, you know, Billy, you know. I don't even know, man. All this healing stuff can be counteracted by perks. All those perks I mentioned earlier. And if you don't want to heal, you still have very, very, you know, meta options, such as adrenaline. Even Dead Hard, you know, that's a whole nother topic, but Dead Hard might still be. And, not to mention, exhaustion perks. Bro, exhaustion perks. Not all of them, but, dude, life, sprint burst, and balance are still very good, bro. Very, very strong. Stronger, if out of those three, right? Well, I'm going to take balance out of there because it's a little more RNG dependent, but life and sprint burst are stronger if 4 survivors have them. It doesn't have to be 4 sprint bursts, it could be 4 life. Is stronger than the strongest chase perks that the killer can bring, because the only viable chase options, you know, once again, if you disagree with anything I'm saying, type it in the comments, whatever. Shit, I'll hop on a call and debate it with you. The strongest, what do we have, what do killers have for chase? Save best for last, and bamboozle, and enduring on certain killers. That's not very game changing. That's not very game changing stuff. Last thing I'm gonna say, just a minor thing. Claustrophobia, Dying Light, Thanatophobia is trash right now. And after the patch, I think it, which by the way, I might change the title of this after the patch, but it's recorded before the patch. But yeah, anyways, Claustrophobia, Dying Light, Thana, I think it's still gonna be trash. I don't think it's gonna become meta for a killer. So yeah. Anyways, hopefully I didn't. I'll probably think of more stuff to say later, but I'm gonna just leave it at that. Try to keep it as short as possible and cram as much information in there, but let me know what you think, and yeah, looking forward to it. Appreciate you watching.